My name is Mia. I'm 21, and this is the part of my story where everything I believed about love began to quietly unravel. It wasn't sudden. That's what made it hurt more, I think. When something shatters all at once, at least there's noise. A crash, a scream, something to hold on to and say, this is where it ended. But no, this was slow, quiet, almost gentle in its undoing. The warmth once shared now fades. That's how it felt. Like trying to hold on to sunlight in a place where the sky had turned gray, even though it used to shine for me. I remember the way things used to be, how morning started with laughter and ended with long conversations that stretched into the night. We would sit close, not needing to fill the silence. Just being near each other was enough. Back then, when I reached for a hand, it was already there waiting. When I smiled, it was returned before I even noticed. That kind of warmth lived in the little things, the stolen glances, the comfort in small touches, the way a name was spoken like it mattered. But lately, that warmth had gone missing. I'd still wake up hoping for the same smile, the same spark in the eyes. But all I found were shadows of what used to be. We'd sit together, but there was distance in every inch between us. I'd talk, but the words would fall softly, like they weren't meant to be caught. Meals together grew quieter, not peaceful but empty, and I started memorizing the silence instead of the sound of a voice I used to know so well. I tried to bring it back. I planned little things, asked questions, left notes, all the tiny gestures that once came so easily. But they landed with no weight, like feathers on stone. There was no rejection, no cruelty, just a kind of stillness that felt colder than anger ever could. When I reached out, I no longer felt warmth. I felt hesitation. Not because of something done, but something lost, or maybe something no longer looked for. At first, I thought I was imagining it, that maybe I was being sensitive, expecting too much, but hearts know. They just do, and mine had started to ache in a way that felt familiar but unwanted. The kind of ache that comes from holding on too tightly to something slipping through your fingers. I'd wake up at night and stare at the ceiling, wondering when exactly the warmth began to fade. I couldn't find the moment. It wasn't one big fight or a single word left unsaid. It was 1,000 small absences, unnoticed until they piled high enough to cover everything. What hurt most wasn't that things had changed, but that I still remembered how it used to feel. And I missed it. I missed being seen, not just looked at. I missed hearing my name like it meant something. I missed the way hearts used to speak even when mouths were silent. Now, silence was all I had. I stopped talking about my day as much. Not because I didn't want to share, but because I wasn't sure anyone was listening. I stopped asking for help with small things, started doing more alone, not out of strength, but out of habit. I got used to the emptiness, the waiting, the quiet, and still I loved. That was the hardest part. Even as the warmth faded, even as it left me cold, I loved with everything that remained. Love, I've learned, doesn't need to be returned to exist. It just does. It stays in moments that meant something, in memories that still make your chest tighten, in hopes that maybe tomorrow things will feel different. But I stopped begging for it, for the warmth, for the closeness, for the light. You can't make someone see you. You can only stay visible for as long as your light lasts. I don't know when I'll stop hoping, or if I ever truly will, but I know that a love that fades without warning is still a love that was real. It lived once. It warmed me once. And even if it's gone, I carry what it taught me. Even fading light can leave a lasting glow. There was a time when eyes held everything, attention, wonder, safety. I used to feel seen completely, as if every glance carried a silent message, a quiet understanding between hearts. I never had to ask for it. It was just there, in the way the gaze would pause on my face like I was worth stopping for. It made me feel like I was someone's favorite part of the room, like the world grew still for a second just because I was there. But lately, those same eyes drift past me. I see it happen all the time. I'll be speaking and they'll flicker, not away in thought, but as if scanning something in the distance, something more important. I notice, I always notice, the way attention used to land softly and now barely brushes me, the way presence has turned into a habit, not a choice, and no one tells you how much that hurts, being near someone and still feeling like you're disappearing. I've tried to tell myself that it's just a phase, that people go through shifts, that life gets heavy. But deep down, I know it's more than that, because attention doesn't just vanish without reason. It fades when interest does, and that's the part I don't know how to fix. I catch myself watching, hoping that maybe just once, the eyes will find me again with that old familiarity, that gentle pause, that warmth. But when they look now, they don't stop. They pass through, like I've become a part of the background, still present, still there, but not the focal point anymore. It makes you second guess yourself. I started wondering if I'd changed, if something in me stopped being enough. Maybe I talk too much. Maybe I expect too much. Maybe I've become ordinary in the eyes that once lit up just because I walked in. It's hard not to feel small in those moments. It's hard not to shrink yourself down so you don't take up space that no longer feels yours. I try to meet those eyes sometimes, to hold their gaze like I used to, but they move too quickly now. They don't linger, don't soften. There's no spark of recognition, no flicker of emotion, just eyes looking, but not at me. I could cry, I could laugh, I could leave the room, and it wouldn't change the direction they're facing. And I know people say that love is more than looks, more than attention. But there's something about the way eyes used to hold me that made me feel safe, wanted, chosen. Without that, I feel untethered, like I'm reaching for something I can't find anymore, like I'm standing still while everything around me moves forward. I miss feeling noticed, not in the loud, dramatic way, just in the quiet sense of being seen, understood, known without explanation. I miss catching those glances across the room, the ones that said, "I'm here. I see you." Now, when I look up, the only thing that meets me is absence. It's strange how someone can still be so close, and yet their focus can be so far away. The space between us is small, but it feels like miles when the eyes I used to trust can't even find me anymore. I feel like I'm waving in silence, hoping for a response that never comes. And still I wait. I wait for one moment where those eyes might turn back and really look. Just once, to remind me that I still exist in the places I used to belong. But even waiting starts to feel like pretending. Sometimes I turn away first, just to protect myself. If I don't look, maybe I won't notice the distance. Maybe I won't feel the sting of being overlooked. But it always finds me. The ache, the emptiness, the quiet grief of being unseen. And yet, I still remember how it felt. That first time those eyes met mine and held on like they found home. That memory lives inside me, even if the moment never returns. It's hard to let go of something that once felt so real. There was a time when laughter filled the spaces between us, not just as sound, but as something alive, warm and effortless. It used to start from nothing at all, from a glance, a silly thought, an inside joke no one else would ever understand. It would build between us like music only we could hear. Something soft and familiar that made even the dullest days feel like they mattered. Now, laughter still happens sometimes, but it doesn't land the way it used to. I still laugh, out of habit, maybe, or out of hope. I tell stories the same way, try to add the same kind of lightness to a moment. I wait for the reaction, for that spark that used to flicker in response, for a smile that would reach the eyes. But more often than not, it doesn't come. There's a pause, a glance, maybe even a half-mile, but it falls flat. Like my words are echoing off walls that no longer open up to me. It's strange how you can feel the shift in something so small. A laugh that once felt like a bridge now feels like a question. I wonder if I'm not funny anymore, or if the things that used to make us laugh now feel far away. Maybe we've changed. Maybe one of us stopped listening while the other kept reaching. I try not to think about it too much, but the silence that follows laughter stays longer than it should. There's something heartbreaking about sharing a moment with someone who no longer meets you in it. I'll laugh and then I'll wait, not just for a laugh in return, but for connection. And when it doesn't come, the moment just floats there, unfinished, heavy, a reminder of how much has gone quiet between us. I fill in the silence with another story, another attempt, hoping something will catch, something will remind us of how we used to be. But it always feels like I'm laughing alone in a room that used to echo with joy. I started noticing that I talk less now, not because I have less to say, but because I'm not sure it matters. I'll catch myself thinking, what's the point? And it hurts to admit that, because I remember how safe it once felt to share everything. The silly thoughts, the strange ideas, the little things that made no sense to anyone else, but meant everything to us. That kind of openness only comes when you feel seen. I don't feel that anymore. The worst part is how natural it still feels to reach out. My heart hasn't caught up to the distance. It still wants to try to bridge the gap, to pull us back to where we were. But effort without return becomes exhaustion, and lately every effort feels like a weight. I try to laugh like I used to, but deep down I know I'm not laughing from the same place anymore. I'm laughing to cover something, to fill the growing space between us, to pretend that maybe things haven't changed, but they have, and I can't unsee it. I can't unfeel the emptiness that lingers after the sound fades. It used to feel so simple. We used to laugh until our sides hurt, until we couldn't breathe, until nothing else in the world mattered. Now I laugh, and it feels like I'm reaching out across a space that only I can feel. The response is faint or missing entirely, and it leaves me wondering if maybe it's just me still trying. I sit in rooms with him now, and though we share the same space, the energy is different, dull, quiet, like something is missing, but no one wants to say it out loud. Maybe we both feel it, maybe only I do. Either way, I can't remember the last time laughter felt easy. I carry those memories like fragile glass. Nights filled with joy, faces lit up in ways that can't be recreated. I think about them more than I should. I hold them close, not because they're happening anymore, but because I don't know what I'd have without them. And I guess that's what it means when laughter echoes but never lands. It means the sound is still there, but the feeling behind it isn't. There's a moment that comes quietly and without warning, when you realize your words no longer land the way they used to. You speak, and they drift out into the air, soft and uncertain, like they're not sure where to go. Like they've lost their place in someone else's world. I feel that now, almost every time I open my mouth. I used to talk so freely, not because I had something important to say, but because it felt safe. Every word mattered, every thought, no matter how small or strange, felt like it had a home in the space between us. There was comfort in knowing I was heard, not just listened to, but really heard. My words used to build things, laughter, connection, warmth. Now they fall quiet before reaching ears that don't seem to be waiting anymore. It didn't happen overnight. At first, I didn't notice the shift. I thought maybe he was tired, distracted, just having a hard day. So I'd keep talking, trying to reach him, trying to find the thread that always pulled us back into the same moment. But slowly, too slowly for me to accept at first, the responses faded. Nods instead of words. Short replies instead of engagement. A glance toward a phone or somewhere just past my shoulder while I was still in the middle of a sentence. And still I spoke. Because when you're used to being heard, you don't expect silence. You don't expect your voice to lose its weight. I kept sharing little stories, things about my day, thoughts that made me pause or smile, hoping they'd land somewhere soft. But they kept falling, dropping between us like fragile things no one wanted to catch. I started second, guessing everything. Should I even say this? Will it matter? Am I annoying? Too much? Too present? The questions crept in slowly like shadows under a door, and once they came, they didn't leave. I became quieter, not because I wanted to be, but because it hurt to keep talking into emptiness. I began saving my words, folding them inside, telling myself maybe tomorrow would feel different. But tomorrow kept repeating itself. There's a kind of loneliness that grows louder when someone's right next to you, when their presence fills the room, but not your heart, when your voice fades before it even touches them. It made me feel invisible, like the sound of me had dulled, and I wondered how something so alive could go unnoticed. I missed the way he used to react, the way he'd turn his full attention toward me, like every word I said mattered, even the ones that didn't. There was light in those moments, a closeness that felt rare and real. Now that space feels hollow. I talk, and there's no echo, no reflection, just air. So I began retreating, slowly, like someone walking backward through a fog, unsure of what's left behind. I stopped sharing the small things first, those little nothings that used to be everything. Then I stopped trying to start conversations at all. Silence became easier than disappointment. At least with silence, I knew what to expect. But even in the silence, I still long for connection. I still catch myself halfway through a sentence, turning to speak before remembering that it won't land. I still write things down, thoughts or phrases, hoping I might share them someday. It's hard to let go of that hope, even when it no longer feels welcome. Sometimes I speak just to see if the words will still come, not to be heard, but to remind myself that I still have a voice, that I still exist, even if the person I once trusted with my words has stopped reaching for them. And maybe that's what hurts the most, not the silence itself, but the way it's replaced something I loved, something that made me feel known. Now my voice is soft and careful, shaped by all the times it went unheard. I still talk sometimes in my head mostly. I imagine the responses I used to get, the ones that made me feel like I mattered. I hold those memories close, not because they fix the present, but because they prove that once I was truly seen. Even if now my words fall quiet before they ever find a place to land. There's something about touch that speaks when words fall short. It used to say everything I needed to hear, a hand finding mine without looking, a gentle brush of fingers across my back, arms wrapped around me like they were made to fit only there. That kind of touch wasn't just about closeness, it was about knowing. Feeling safe, feeling chosen, but now touch feels colder with each day. It's not just about warmth fading from skin. It's about the meaning behind it slowly slipping away. I still feel his hand sometimes, but it's different now. Looser, absent even when it's there, like he's going through the motion without remembering why it ever mattered. And when our skin meets, it doesn't bring comfort anymore, it brings questions. I used to lean into him without thinking, knowing I'd be met with softness, with welcome. Now I hesitate. Now I wonder if my touch is wanted or simply tolerated. I reach for closeness like I'm stepping into unknown water, unsure if I'll be pulled in or pushed away. And even when I'm held, I notice the distance. I feel the absence of what used to live in that simple, wordless language. It's strange how memory plays tricks. I still remember how it felt when his hand would hold mine tightly, like it was afraid to let go. That memory still lingers in my fingertips, but when I reach for that now, all I find is something colder, not rejection, but something quieter than that, indifference. I notice how long it takes for him to reach back now, how short the embrace is, how quickly the moment ends. It's like there's a time limit on affection, a rule I was never told, but one I've learned to follow. The space between us isn't always physical, but I feel it most when we're close. That's the part that's hardest to explain. When someone is inches away, but you feel like you're standing on opposite sides of a wall. I used to feel like I belonged in his arms. Now, even when I'm there, I'm not sure I'm wanted. I try not to let it show. I still smile, still lean in, hoping something familiar might return. But inside, I brace myself for the coldness, for the lack of response, for the stillness that now lives where warmth used to be. There are nights I lie beside him and wonder if he even notices the way I curl in closer, the way I hold on just a little tighter. I pretend I'm fine with the silence, with the distance, with the way his back turns before mine. But I'm not. I miss the way we used to fit together without trying. I've stopped reaching as much, not because I don't want to, but because it hurts to keep hoping, to keep searching for something that doesn't reach back. It's hard to keep placing your heart in someone's hands when their hands have stopped holding you the way they once did. I don't know when the coldness started. Maybe it was a slow fade. Maybe it crept in during one of those quiet nights when neither of us knew what to say. Maybe it arrived when love stopped being loud and started being something we assumed would just stay, even without effort. But love needs to be felt. And when touch turns cold, it's like love starts fading from the surface first. What used to bring us closer now feels like a reminder of how far we've drifted. I try to remember the last time his touch made me feel something real, something safe, something certain. But all I can recall are shadows of warmth that no longer remain. And maybe that's what breaks my heart the most. Not the silence, not the distance, but the way something so simple and once so powerful has lost its meaning. A hand that used to steady me now feels like a stranger's. And I don't know how to hold on to something that no longer holds me back. Some nights I still reach for him, quietly, without expectation. Not because I believe it will change, but because some part of me still remembers how it used to feel to be touched like I mattered. Even if now that touch feels colder with each day, it's a strange kind of ache, the kind that grows in silence and stillness, not from absence, but from being present with someone who no longer reaches back. I still love him. I feel it every day in the way I look at him when he's not watching, in the quiet hope that maybe today will feel different, in the way I hold onto memories like they're fragile glass. Love still lives in me, fully, completely, but it stands alone. There are moments when I see him move through the day, and something in me softens. The way he pours his coffee, the sound of his voice in another room. Little details that don't even matter to him, but they still matter to me. They remind me of who we used to be, of how this all began. I remember the way he used to look at me like I was everything, like I was enough, like I was his home, and I still feel all of that, but I don't see it reflected anymore. I wonder sometimes if he notices, if he feels the love I still give, even in the small ways, the way I keep things in place so they're easier for him, the way I hold back tears because I know he wouldn't know what to do with them, the way I stay quiet when the silence grows too long, hoping maybe he'll be the one to break it first. But love, when it stands alone, starts to feel invisible. It doesn't make a sound when it breaks. It just folds itself smaller, bit by bit, trying to fit into a space that no longer feels open. I still do all the things I used to. I still care. I still wait. But the warmth that used to meet me halfway has gone missing, and I'm left offering pieces of my heart into a silence that doesn't reach back. It's not that he's cruel. It's not that he stopped being kind. It's just that something faded. The closeness, the spark, the shared rhythm between two people who once couldn't get enough of each other. I think he believes we're still okay because we're still here, still going through the motions, still living under the same roof. But love is more than being near. It's knowing someone sees you, feels you, chooses you again and again. I don't feel chosen anymore. I just feel kept. There's a kind of loneliness that comes with loving someone who's no longer present in the same way. It's heavy. It sits in your chest when you laugh and realize you're the only one laughing. It curls up next to you at night when the bed feels too wide. It lingers in the spaces where conversation used to live, now filled with silence or short replies. And through it all, love remains, quiet, patient, aching. I still dream of the way it used to be, not because I'm holding on to the past, but because it's the only place where I felt held. I remember how our hands would find each other without thinking, how we'd talk about everything and nothing, how even the most ordinary days felt special just because we were together. That version of us still lives in my heart, even if it doesn't live in his anymore. People say love is enough, but it's not. Not when it's only coming from one side. Not when it's fighting to survive in a place where it no longer has room to grow. I tell myself it's okay to still love him. That love doesn't need to be returned to be real. But some nights, that truth feels more like a weight than a comfort. I look at him and wonder what he sees when he looks at me. Does he remember what we used to be? Does he miss it, even a little? Or has he already let go in ways he won't say out loud? I'll never know. He doesn't speak about these things, and I've stopped asking, because I've learned that silence sometimes says more than words ever could. So I carry this love on my own. I let it live quietly inside me, even when it hurts. I show it in small ways, knowing it might not be seen. And I hold onto the pieces of what we were, even as I learn to live with what we've become. Because love still lives, but now it stands alone. I've held onto this love for so long, longer than I thought I could. But sometimes loving someone isn't enough when the feeling stands alone. It's time for me to let go, not because I stopped caring, but because I need to care for myself now. Goodbye isn't easy, especially when your heart still wants to stay. But I've learned that love deserves to be shared, not carried alone in silence. So, this is me stepping away, not from love itself, but from the shadow of what we used to be. I hope you find your peace, and I hope one day I find mine too. Goodbye.